What's up, everybody, and welcome to Rolling Reggie's Roundup, and we're going to talk about all the board games I played in January. I use an amazing app called BG Stats. I highly recommend it. You can follow them on Instagram. They update the app like every week. This is not sponsored, but I like to track all of the games that I play in real life at the table and all of the real-time games I play on Board Game Arena. I do not track my board games that are turn-based. So with that, I was able to play 75 different times this month, 35 unique games, and 15 of those games were new to me. So I added 5 games to my collection this month, 2 of which I have not had the chance to play, so we're going to start with those. And number 1 is Maui. This is a beautiful game. I'm very excited to play. Very lightweight, it looks like. I got it from Fun Again Games. They're a really awesome distributor online. If you're in the US especially, great deals. They have an awesome ding and dent category, which I've purchased from, and they deliver so fast if you're on the West Coast. So they had a big January sale, and I had to buy this. It caught my eye for really 2.5 reasons. Number 1 is the trio of designers, and I'll put it up on screen, but they're the same designers as Botnik, and one of my favorite games, one of my favorite 2-player games. But one thing I also thought was interesting is the theming is we're all just vying for real estate for our towels on the beach, and I just love that about it, and I think that's great. And the currency, which is the 2.5, is sand dollars, so you know, I'm just a sucker for thematic things. So this is Maui. I'm excited to try that out. The second game that I got was a little bit of a fun find. Now, this was a big Euro game in a store that you might not expect. So I was at a Tuesday morning, which is similar to like a TJ Maxx or a Home Goods or something if you don't have it, kind of like a surplus furniture store. And they had a modest board game selection. And I'm looking at it and I see this game and it's 2018. I look it up. It is a 60-minute, 2 to 4 player like Euro game that has pretty solid reviews all around. And I don't want to talk about MSRP or things, but this is like a $50, $60 game. And I got it for $11. So this is Ceylon here. Beautiful game, kind of about tea plantation. I mean, you can see how big it is. I mean, this goes on my top shelf up here. About tea plantations in what is now known as Sri Lanka, and it is just a gorgeous game and so big. And I watched a review on it, and the thing that caught my eye from the gameplay was that there's very minimal downtime in this game. Every single action card has 2 actions on it, a primary action and a secondary action. And when you play down your card, you do the primary action, and every other player at the table gets to do the secondary action. So every turn you're doing something, and I just love that about games, and I just had to buy it for $11. It's also not really easily found, so I don't know. I think I might have found a sleeper hit, and I'm really excited about that. So that is Ceylon. Moving on to the games that I got this month that I've played a few times, and number 1 is my first Kickstarter game that I've ever received. I'm so excited about it, and it's a tiny little box of Birds of a Feather, Western North America. Beautiful little game by Snowbright Studio. It is designed by Teal Fristow. And it's a cute little game. It's very lightweight for up to 7 players. If you don't know this about me, I am a huge bird nerd as well as being a board game geek. And so that's why Wingspan is one of my favorite games. And so I think I'm just going to collect all the bird themed games, because why not? If you have any bird themed games that aren't Enchanted Blooms, Wingspan, or now this one, please put them in the comments below. I will buy them. The basic mechanics is it's got a mechanic called simultaneous action selection. And in this game, that means everybody's going to take one of the bird cards that they have in their hand and you flip them at the same time. I actually have the little score sheet here, and I'll even show you I'll put the app on screen for you too. That's beautiful for it. But all you're doing is marking off the card that you flipped and any other birds that were revealed in the same habitat. And then those birds stay, and they're called lingering birds. And then we flip a second time, every one at the same time. And then you get to mark off those birds that you flipped, that were flipped this turn, and any lingering birds that match the same habitat. That's pretty much the gist of the game. And so it's a little bingo-like as well, and you're trying to collect sets of all the same birds. I taught this to my little sister and my brother-in-law, and we had a great time with this at the beginning of the month. So it's a cute little game. I think it's really, really lightweight, and the art is beautiful. But I was really excited to get my first Kickstarter, and that's Birds of a Feather Western North America. Now on to the second game that I received that I've got to play a few times. This comes from OrcaCon. I had a great time in Bellevue, Washington at the Inclusive Board Gamer Convention. I met a lot of awesome people and played a lot of new games. To me, that is a big reason why I was able to get 15 new to me games. They had a section called Play and Win, and you could play games and get entered into a raffle. And so I played a game called Disney's Sorcerer's Arena, which is basically kind of like the Unmatched, but for Disney characters, you know, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mickey, Gaston, Ariel, Aladdin. You got amazing characters in here, and you're in an arena battling with cards and unique decks that you use to move and do attacks. And so I stayed around till Sunday afternoon, and I won the raffle for Disney Sorcerer Arena. So you can see the box here. It's very beautiful. I really like the design overall. And it's 2 or 4 players. I was most impressed by the rule book. It had 4 chapters, and a lot of these, I heard that a lot of these designers came from designing video games and mobile games. And what they have decided to do is kind of make a video game-like tutorial where chapter 1 will teach you basic mechanics of how to play the game. Chapter 2 is you add in a little bit more spice, and 3 and 4 are more like what the full version of the game is meant to be. But it really eases you into each of the mechanics, and I thought that was genius. And then I'm a little worried because it does have 2 expansions out already, and one of them is called Turning the Tide, and it is Moana, Stitch, and Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. So you obviously know I have to buy that as well. So there's another rabbit hole I'll be going down, Disney's Sorcerer's Arena. And the final game I bought this month, I got it from Powell's. If you've ever been to Portland, Oregon, it's actually the largest independently owned bookstore in the world. And there's a few locations, and they were having a 25% off sale on everything. So I had to buy stuff, especially because they have a pretty good board game selection. So I bought an amazing game I'm just going to point at on my screen here, and that is Monolith. Great game. I've already played it 4 times with my wife. It's one of those games where I just knew instantly that she would love it. It is by the GOAT himself, Phil Walker Harding, praise be. And what it is basically 3D patchwork. You have these, you're doing a 4x4x4 grid of a 3D cube and using all these colorful plastic tiles, and you draft them very similar to patchwork around a circle around the main board. You can pick any of the 4 that are in front of the crystal. But what I really love about the game so far, and what has really drawn my eye, is they have basically a gambling mechanic where you pick up a prophecy token. They have various numbers on them up to 16, and you put it on one of your sides of the board of your cube, and that board has one of the 5 colors on it. And what you're doing is looking at it from that angle. Will that face of the wall have X number of squares? So you're betting that you would get 14 squares of the teal color if you were to look at that cube from that side. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is. But it really is just such a little unique thing, and you can see people like rotating the cube around so many times, and you can rotate your other players to look at it and see what they're going for, and that's a really cool mechanic. Excited to play it at 3 and 4 players, but Monolith will definitely be a mainstay in our collection. Next up, we're going to talk about the games that I played the most this month. And I'm going to throw them up on screen here so you can see it was, again, a very good month for me. I was very excited to play this many games. Going to OrcaCon was a great way for me to get a lot of these games played as well. But I want to mention the top 5, which BG Stats calls the H-Index. And so here they are. It is Kites, 7 Wonders Architects, Marvel Champions, Silver and Gold, and Skulls of Sedlec. I'm just going to put the definition of the H-Index on screen here. It's basically the smallest number of games that I have played that same amount of time. So for me this month it was 5, and those were the 5 games that I played at least 5 times. So I'm just going to touch on 2 of them that I wanted to talk about. Number 1 is my most played of the month, and that is Kites here. This is by Kevin Hamano, and it has gorgeous art by Beth Sobel that you never get to look at because the game plays so fast. So what Kites is a real-time cooperative game with sand timers. So what we're all doing is trying to keep all 6 sand timers up by playing different colored kites that are aligned with the colors of the sand timers. And if any one sand timer empties, you lose. So I have 8 plays this month because I played in 2 separate sessions, and we played 3 times, losing 3 times in a row and won on the 4th. And then a few weeks later, did the exact same thing with a different group. And we lost 3 times in a row and won on the 4th. So it's very addicting, which is why I think it gets high plays. But I don't have that much co-op in my collection, and my wife really loves to compete, but this is one of those cooperative games where you kind of are competing and you can at least blame somebody if you think they're going too slow. There's these awesome cards that kind of up the ante and make it a little more challenging. I think more people should talk about it and try it out. It's very good for non-gamers. The second game I would love to touch on is one that I was shown at OrcaCon in real life, and that is Seven Wonders Architects. And since then, I have actually played it many times on BGA this month as well. But it is a game that I heard so much negative reviews about. And so I just want you to know, this is my PSA. You know, if I say I don't like something, does not mean that you like it. And if I say I like something, doesn't mean that you don't like it. And I know that sounds so easy and intuitive, but I heard so many negative things because people love the original Seven Wonders, and this is a really lightweight version of it. But I had so much fun with this, and I enjoyed it way more because it's such a light experience, and it's got beautiful production in person, and I really love it on BGA as well. But it's basically a drafting game where you have 3 choices every time to take from the deck to your left, the face-up deck to your right, or the face-down deck in the middle, and grabbing all these resources to build your wonder, or you're grabbing these science pieces to get these progress tokens, which give you kind of almost like an engine building aspect there. But it's such a simple game. I can't really understand why people don't like it. I think it's a blast and has great replayability because of the 7 different wonders and what your strategy can kind of be each time. I also really prefer how they do the military in this game. If you've played the original one, there's these peace tokens, and every time you grab a military token that has a horn on it, like a war horn, then it flips the peace token to the war side, and when a certain number is reached, you battle both people on your left and your right. And it is just an awesome game, and I just want to say to all the haters, I really would love to know why you hate the game, because I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I had held out for so long because I heard so many negative reviews. Finally, we're going to talk about some of the new games that I tried on Board Game Arena. So now I know board games virtually or online are not for everybody or everybody's cup of tea, but for me personally, I'm really trying to learn all these amazing different games that are out there with different mechanics and themes and styles. And several of my friends are not really within driving distance, so it's nice for us to get on Discord weekly and play some new games real time. So I'm going to talk about 2 here that I really enjoyed this month. One is Sea Salt and Paper. This is a neat small box card game by Bruno Cathala, and every single turn you're either grabbing one of 2 cards that are discarded, or you're grabbing 2 cards off the top of the deck, selecting one and discarding the other. Very simple turn mechanics. But where the twist comes in is, you're doing a lot of set collection of all these marine life or ocean related things, boats and fish, crabs, there's mermaid cards. When you get a pair of cards, you play them down and get some sort of special action. But where the real uniqueness comes in the game is that when you get to 7 points, you can end the round immediately. And so you will most likely have the most points unless somebody was holding out. Why you might hold out is you can also call last chance. If you're above 7 points, you can call last chance and everybody else gets to take 1 more turn. If anyone ties you or has more than you after their 1 more turn, then you get a minimal amount of points and they all get full points. If you call that last chance and you do win after everybody has another chance, then you get bonus points and everyone else only scores a minimal amount of points. So it's kind of a nice little push your luck gamble of like, did I get enough points to beat everyone even if they have 1 more turn? Or should I just immediately end the round right when I get to 7? awesome little game that I will be purchasing as soon as it becomes available in North America. I haven't really found it around so far. The number 2 game and final game of today's video is Isle of Cats. This is a big box game, another polyomino game that honestly on BGA, the interface is a little clunky and took us a while to really get the hang of it. But by my second play, I was really enjoying this. I lost both games pretty handily. It's got closed drafting where you have 7 cards, you pick 2 and you pass them to create a hand, and then you use that hand to buy these polyomino cat tiles and put them on your boat. You're covering up things like scrolls and rats for extra points. You're touching colors of cats that are orange and red and green to the same color. Then there's all these public objectives and private objectives. It is really the heaviest polyomino game I've played, and I gotta say, it was really, really fun. I enjoyed it. It may have contested with Emotep for my board game Alphabet video if I had played it before that, but I hadn't. So it was an awesome game. I really want my wife to try it. I think she's daunted by these heavier games. But the polyomino, the art, and how the cards interacted with each other was a really, really fun game, and that will definitely be at least in my BGA repertoire, and I would love to play it in person soon. Thank you for sticking around to the end. You get rewarded by looking at my handsome boy, Frankie. Thank you so much. Leave a like if you can, and check out my next board game Alphabet video, which we'll be releasing very soon. See ya.